Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you're having an absolutely lovely day. I know I am. It's been one hell of a blizzard that's been going on outside, so I'm completely snowed in today and probably tomorrow too. So I figured I may as well make some time and crank another one of these out. I wanted to talk today about advice that I have specifically for people who are coming into school or particularly college. Because I feel like this is something that I've made a lot of crucial mistakes in my experience, and I don't want people to follow in those footsteps. So I'm going to just yap about that for a bit. I think the biggest mistake that I made coming into college was not really prioritizing social aspects enough as I should have. And what I mean by that basically is like, so you know how like generally people, like if you talk to an adult about college, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's very important. You get all these wonderful connections and stuff and blah, 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 blah. And it's really a place where you need to make connections. And that's like all they talk about. Like very rarely have I actually heard people talk about college in the aspect of like, oh, it's a great way to have a direct path to employment where it actually teaches you valuable skills. No, I feel like 90% of the time it's just connections. And, with the hindsight that I now have, I'm a senior graduating in, I believe, May. Actually, you should check that out, but I do think it's May. My time is almost over here in my school. And really, the first 2 semesters of my time here, I don't think I valued the social aspect enough. I was grinding out prerequisite classes. I was doing my, academic work. I was also participating in clubs, which, that's what you like to see. But at the same time, I also felt really disconnected and like I didn't really belong. There wasn't really any community that I could identify with properly. That's obviously changed now, but I really wish looking back, I actually didn't try as hard with my classes. I was someone who coming in from high school, there wasn't as much diligent work necessary in most cases. And sometimes if there was, it was like, okay, I just locked in, like studied. Coming into college, that was a very different environment. And it was a bit of a shock. So I was immediately like, okay, I was coming into this expecting, well, I'm never going to be playing a video game again. It's college. I'm going to be slaving away at my textbook. And yeah, maybe in some cases, if you're studying like engineering, that would actually be true. However, that was not for me. So I really wish that I hadn't taken as much value to the classes as I did. I genuinely wish I got B's. I got all A's because I was a little star student and I wanted to make my parents proud, and I did do that. But I really wish that I hung out with people more, went to more parties, talked with more people, generally just did more things. Did more things. So that is the most valuable piece of advice I can give you, is if you're going into college and it's a situation, at least like for me, because I was going out of state. So I basically didn't know anybody who went there. So it was like a fresh start, which was probably for the best considering I was kind of a chud in high school. But yeah, if you're coming into a college or something with a completely fresh start, you don't really know anybody. Maybe you're an international student, I feel you. But if you're doing that, please do not undervalue the first month of college specifically, I would say. Because here's the very sad truth about how people work in college. They have their little friend groups that they develop, their little circles, their cliques, and then they literally never expand out of them. I mean, here and there they will. I've been fortunate enough to be part of those groups. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to be sticking with the same people after freshman year. Which means that if you want to be a part of something with other people, you have to really get into that group early. Because if you don't, that's it. There goes your chance, buddy. And that's really the sad truth of it. Now, this could be fixed if people actually were a little bit more open-minded, welcomed new people, But unfortunately, even at a school, I go to liberal arts school. So, you'd think people would be like woke there or something. Even there, you will observe the same behavior. So please make a friend group. And also, if it happens that you do find yourself in a position where you meet somebody and they're trying to get into a friend group and it's being difficult for them, be open-minded. Welcome them with open arms, because there's really no reason to give them as hard of a time as they're already having. The next thing I would really say is important is planning. I'm a person who really used to just live in the moment before coming into college, and I very quickly learned that that just does not fly. You know how in high school teachers would tell you, oh well, this won't fly in college, and it's like you go to college and you're very surprised, okay, well it totally did. You're literally just allowed to eat pizza in the back of a class. The teacher won't give a fuck, which is hilarious. But planning is extremely, extremely important for those things, because the thing is, if you're in a setting where, even if you're in a school where there's a relatively open curriculum, so it's you're taking classes and you can take whatever you want, like free electives and stuff, you still need to keep in the back of your mind, how many classes do I need to take to satisfy my requirements to graduate for my master's or bachelor's or whatever degree, right? And you got to keep that balance. That's why when I was planning right away and I was grinding out all my prerequisites, because I didn't want to basically lock myself out of potential classes later down the line. There was cases where one of my friends was studying computer science, and he fucked up his schedule so poorly that he did the math, and because only some classes were offered in some semesters, he would not be able to satisfy all the requirements for graduation in time. Because it's okay, well, I have to take three classes that are tie into each other. So I have to take the first one, take the second one, the third, right? But they're all only offered in the spring, and I have 2 years left. So it's you can't do that. And it was because he was taking too many philosophy classes and stuff. So he ended up having to change his major because of that. And I honestly, probably for the best, because computer science is really, really not a great field of work to be in right now. I'm gonna be so real with people. But to each their own, right? I will say that. Get into clubs. Don't be afraid to start a club too. If you see that there's a community that hasn't been satisfied, if your school lets you very easily make an organization do that, get into some sort of activity that keeps you healthy. Maybe it's an intramural sport or something, but go to the gym, take care of yourself. And especially if you are going into a school where you do not know anybody, that is an excellent opportunity to reinvent yourself, and something that you should probably take advantage of. Because that's what I did. I was a fucking miserable kid. If I met the old version of me in high school, I would probably punch him. He was obnoxious, annoying, not the nicest person. And as opposed to me now, where I've gone woke, I love that. I feel much better about myself, and I'm still working on improving. It's a process. It's not night and day. But becoming self-aware and taking that first step to maybe bettering yourself, and also, you don't have to wait for college to reinvent yourself. You can do that whenever. I frequently, what I'll do is spring or summer breaks. Well, not spring mainly, it's summer, winter breaks, I would say. Between school, I will just work on improving myself, and then I'll come back, and sometimes I'll be unrecognizable. So that's kind of it. I didn't want to drag this one on for too long, because I do have a lot of homework, ironically enough, backed up that I do need to finish, and I have some club stuff. But what I will say is, if you're going to college or you're thinking about it, don't feel pressured. You don't have to go to college. I think that, especially now, the value of university education is just not there. But if you do decide to, take my advice with a grain of salt, of course, because it's not a universal concept. But do not deprive yourself of those social activities and stuff. Even if you're one of those people who struggles socially, maybe you're like a shut-in, maybe well, I didn't want to say that because that's like a derogatory term, but if you are a person who maybe struggles from social anxiety, reinvent yourself, get yourself out there. Your school probably has like mental health counseling services as well. Take advantage of that, please. It's there for you. You literally pay for it. It is part of your tuition. You may as well use it, or at least try it, you know. With that being said, you know the drill. I will see you guys around. Bye-bye.
You don't decontaminate make it by down to chui.
What are you even trying to say?
anh có đây có yêu thông cái đâu à không chơi không đi à muốn nhau đồ suy đi cô rồi mình cũng đôi cô đồ thôi